Heard it said, watch out for the Appalachian State type of upset. Sounds like some think that A&M is the one putting on the roller skates, strapping rockets to our backs to try and catch the Roadrunners. Are we putting the bird feed down on the train track, waiting for you to come eat, only to get ourselves run over? Maybe you have this idea that we are taking the road, picking it up, pulling it over towards the rock wall, and then painting on the rock what looks to be a road so that you will run yourself into the road, only to find out that you ran through like it was a normal tunnel. So, Appalachian State type of upset, says the beat writers. I got one thing to say to that. Two words: beat, beat. Let's find out who the real Roadrunner is. Welcome to the Aggie Central podcast. I'm your host, Central. I'll be previewing every matchup this year, starting with UTSA. Roadrunners, if you made it to this point, congratulations. I always like to be a bit of an antagonist with these previews early in the season. I had every faith that you would still be here, but I wanted to see who would get triggered, who's soft, and who just can't take it. Truth is, though, I got a lot of respect for you guys. Your program is a solid program. I really like it. I think I'd be a fan if that was my school. Okay. I had faith you'd make it to this point, and I just want to have a little bit of fun. So I'm glad you're still with me. So let me prove that to you by giving you a preview of this game with respect to your team, that my Maroon faith will know what's coming. And then let's talk about A&M's five biggest questions for this particular game that are going to probably foreshadow the rest of the season. So with the Roadrunners, it starts with the QB. All right. You got Owen McCown. He's heading this thing up. They like the guy. He's a 3,400-yard passer last year, 25 TDs, 10 INTs. They think he's the guy. They think he's the guy that's going to do the job. I think he's right. I think they're right. I think he's good. He's a lefty, so he's kind of a wrong hander, but I want to hold that against him. He's got a 63% completion percent. So right off the bat, you got me a fan. I've been looking for that out of our quarterbacks for the longest as I can remember. But honestly, quarterback's very important. But it's more for this team, in my opinion, about all the pieces that are around him. And they have a lot of pieces around him. So I'm going to reel off a whole bunch. And you need to listen closely because this offense is capable is not the right word. Dangerous might be a better word. Okay. They bring back Robert Henry Jr. He's a 5'9", 205-pound senior. A lot of experience with this guy. But they pick up John Emery from LSU, all 220 pounds of him from the They get this guy from the portal. He was an original five-star prospect out of the class of 2019. He found himself with a few academic issues his first couple of years. Those gave way to injuries, most recently an ACL in 2024 after LSU's first game. Poor guy. You hate to see it, no matter if it is with LSU. But the guy comes back in March. He makes it over to UTSA. This is going to be his final home, and he wants to make something out of the season, right? But even more experience returns if you don't, just toss running back out the window for a second. More experience returns at the wide receiver group. They got like 8 or 9 of their top guys back, something like that. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, Willie McCoy led the team last year with 536 yards. Not an impressive number. Aaron Am's like, that's kind of like a standard wide receiver total. Sometimes we balloon up to 700. 536, not impressive. What's impressive is the number of receivers that are getting that amount, what they're able to do with that. They're spreading the ball around, which makes it really difficult to defend. You've got to have somebody in every single spot on every single one of these guys, and you got to know who's in the game and who's not in the game. It's not that easy to defend. The bigger weapon, however, may actually be their 6'5" tight end Houston Thomas. He tallied 470 yards, kind of like the same narrative I was telling you about. He's a very solid guy. He's a solid guy. He's not going to put up huge numbers. He's just going to do his job, and he really doesn't get enough credit for the catches he does make. The numbers aren't flashy, so no one's gonna like ooh and ah on this guy. But I've actually learned to ooh and ah on the guys who just do their role and do it well. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns. No big deal, right? 34 catches, like I said, 470 yards. Just know, because he's going to make some catches and they're going to be a big deal. He's going to get some first downs and he's going to move the chains for these guys. That's what they actually do. They will hit this guy for a pass here, a pass there, and then they're moving the ball down the field. Okay. More pieces, more pieces around Owen. They're going to return 4 out of 5 of their offensive line. So they're really excited about this. You know how we are about this as well, with all our offensive linemen coming back. So, I mean, just think how, again, what they are. What a 7-6 team, I think, last year. With all this stuff coming back on the offensive line, they really think they're going to put it together this year. And I think they might be right. Um, Not surprising. They were 27th in the nation for scoring with an average of 33 points per game. Now, that even improved to 25 if you filter for FBS ranked teams. So, I mean, either where they're playing in like the AAC and not the highest quality, but when they're playing FBS ranked teams, and I think they had 3 last year, they're actually playing a little bit better in this regard. So, talk about their offensive identity and what A&M is going to be up against this offense. It starts with it being a veteran group between McCown, the running backs, wide receivers, and the tight end. It's just a vastly experienced group. So I think it's going to be more of the same. The offense has not been their issue. They're a balanced team, nearly 50-50 run to pass, but 60% of their production comes through the air, as you might expect with all those weapons and how solid they are at the wide receiver group. They got 172 plays last year of 10 or more yards. Now, that was about 73rd in the nation in the FBS. But that improves if you filter that for 20 plus yard plays. So I just want to highlight the explosiveness of this offense. It's something that's really going to test our secondary. We did not have a good secondary last year. Desrix is on the radar and seems to be the guy that they have a lot of confidence in, opposite of Will Lee. And Will Lee is going to be the leader of the secondary. You got Bryce Anderson and Radcliffe on the backside. And then it looks like from the depth chart that I saw, you're going to have Chappelle at the nickel. So between these 5 guys, it's going to be up to them to shut this down so that we can get ourselves a pass rush. From UTA standpoint, opposite of passing, trying to keep it balanced. They're the 54th best rushing attack. They gain about 167 yards per game. Nothing fancy, enough to keep it balanced, enough to keep the defense guessing so that they can start working that ball downfield. 11th best 11th best passing attack, and they do about, I don't know, 283 yards or so per game. When playing ranked teams, that drops significantly though to about 47th in the nation, only 215 yards per game. So I highlight that because they're only going to play a few ranked teams a year, probably 2, maybe 3 at most. Last year they got Texas, I think Army, and one other, maybe it was Memphis. When they played those teams, it was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation, as I'll illustrate a little bit more with the defense. So let's hop over there real quick. The defense, it's a total rebuild from what I understand. A total rebuild on the defensive side. They lose all 11 guys. However, there is room for optimism as I'm listening to the beat writers. They actually think this could be a bit of an improvement. I mean, I can't say I disagree with them from what I've listened to them say, and here's why. Here's why. Losing all 11, you're thinking rebuild. What are they going to do? All right, they get Shad Banks, senior transfer from TCU. He's going to anchor the D at linebacker, and he'll play he'll play behind Johnny Bowen III, who was a top 300 247 player. He transferred back home essentially from Oregon. The guy's a Judson native. So I'm willing to bet he got up to Oregon. He figured out that they couldn't cook barbecue. Now, he probably, surely he's not like used to Bill Miller barbecue down in San Antonio. There's got to be better barbecue around that. But they good and well they can't cook in Oregon, right? I mean, that's too close to USC where Lincoln Riley is. So there's no way they can do a good brisket. So the former class of 2023 guy, he was recruited by Terry Price as a 4-star prospect. So this is an upper end guy, and if Terry Price wanted him, that means I kind of want it because I trust Terry Price. Rest in peace. Curious thought. Might we have seen some interest from this guy in College Station in the near future, maybe after this season, something like that? I don't know. We'll Time will tell. We'll see. But they got the 71st best D in the nation, but it's 101st against ranked opponents. So when they play a quality opponent, it's not looking very good. At least historically, it hasn't. Last year, it was not. 55th in opponent 10 plus yard plays, 83rd against, again, ranked teams in the same category. They give up a lot of big plays. Watched a number of games trying to scout these guys, and it was just like, that last three plays watching us play USC. You know what I mean. But redemption season for Des Ricks, honestly. I mean, if they still got confidence in this guy after that and he stepped into it, watch out. So I'm really interested to see what that guy does. But we're on their defense right now, so I'll step back. Yeah. Um, like I said, 55th in the nation for 10 plus yard plays, 83 against ranked opponents. They're seventh in opponent third down conversions. And I'm sitting here reading this stat to you, saying it again. I've said it like 10 times, right? I've rehearsed this multiple times. And I'm still having trouble hearing myself say that, right? With that type of defense, and then the seventh best third down conversion rate for a defense in the country. It sort of doesn't make any sense. I've been looking into it. I don't really have an answer as to why that was the case. I'm wondering maybe because they didn't play that many third downs. It does look like that may be part of the story. They didn't have a lot of attempts at third downs and or keeping their opponent from converting them. But that didn't seem to tell the whole story. So a bit of a head scratcher considering they were 124th in passing D as well. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. I think the other team was probably just too prolific. It didn't matter on third downs. So Jekyll and Hyde type of defense for sure. Now the transfers they got on defense are solid. They add the ads, and I'm willing to bet between their offensive identity, Jeff Traylor, these guys that they add on defense, they're going to challenge for a conference championship. I think they will challenge for it. Maybe small dark horse champion for the conference, something like that. I don't know if I'm willing to go out on a limb that far. I don't know them that well, but having been digging into this for about a week or two, I think they're going to surprise some folks in the conference. So it's definitely going to be a team to watch out for. So this really gets us into 5 big questions for A&M. This game is not going to be so much about what UTSA can do. It's got to be about what we're going to do. Any team that's going to be dominant, that's going to have this outlook, that's playing a would-be, say, cream puff, and UTSA is not a cream puff, but that's the way it's viewed upon, right? It's a game that we are supposed to win. It's got to be about A&M. So UTSA, a solid AAC team, but we should be able to have our way, like Burger King. The line started off at about 20. It's currently 22.5, over under 56.5. Can we cover that? We only covered like 3 times last year. Can we cover that? Can we win this game in dominating fashion? Answering these questions and the other 4 that go along with that one, at least that's related, in my mind, is going to tell us everything we need to know about this season, not just about this game and what's going to happen. If we answer these questions, I'd be willing to bet we're going to cover that and some, and the season's going to be borderline 9-3 plus. So, what are those 5 big questions? Um, let's just take it from the top. I got 5. Like I said, 5. Will the O line dominate? What's the physicality going to look like? That's one and the same, in my opinion. That's the first question. Will the O line dominate? What's the physicality level going to be like? I saw way too many times last year that we got beat off the line, and it's just head scratchers for me. Number 2, can the pass rush get home? We lose Scorton, Turner, Stewart last year. Not that they got home a whole lot, but it was definitely a sore spot in the game when we were sold to Billy Goods thinking we were going to be a pretty prolific pass rushing team last year. Again, this question, though, if you watch previous episodes that I've kind of been hinting at, this question answers 2 areas of need. One, the pass rush, and are we able to replace those guys? And number 2, what's the back end secondary doing? Are they able to cover to give us the time to actually get these home? Because that's been a piece where, sure, how am I going to blame Stewart, Turner, and Scorton for not getting home when the secondary is making it just about as easy as it can be to get complete passes and get them out early? So, a symbiotic situation that's going on there. Three, Marcel's accuracy. You've heard, and he knows, they've told us this guy's not a passer. So he needs to lay this to rest as best he can first game right out of the gate, right? Four, Will Elko call plays. USC bowl game, the man was disgusted. I felt like I wanted to throw up because of the way he was talking about the team. Because for some reason, I felt like I was one of those players in the locker room, and that just when I internalize something like that, I just kind of it makes me feel some kind of way. I can only imagine how those guys felt in the locker room that way. Will he call plays? Interesting question. Five, and I think most important, is what is the identity of this team going to be? What form is Moss going to be in, and what will the wide receivers actually be able to do? Is it going to be one or the other as our identity? Okay, so let's take it from the top. Will the O line dominate? The O line is the most veteran group we've had in a minute. Will they be able to get that big push up front? Will we stay ahead of schedule regularly? Will we assert our will? Will we run it down their throat? Out there, you get the idea. And what's our physicality level? Are we getting beat at the line at any point? I've seen some whiffs, like I said, and from this situation, I don't think we can stand to let that continue on. This area is extremely important to me. Answering the question about domination and physicality will tell me how serious we took the offseason. And that's what this piece is just about. Answering, all those little subcategories all feed into this last piece. If we are showing to be physically, dominating, then to me that's saying we have taken the offseason seriously. If not, then I don't think we have. And if we haven't taken the offseason seriously, then there's a lot of implications that flow from me. So this is a big question that needs to be answered. Okay. What about the pass rush? Like I was saying, Scorton, Turner, Stewart all left, and they leave what were some perceived big holes. Although those holes effectually might not have been as big as we were led on to believe, right? Because we were told there was going to be this huge pass rush, and we're going to be like maybe leading in sacks, and we just didn't. So effectually, the hole is actually not that big to fill. So now we get to see how well Regis, Hicks, and Howe will fill those holes. They don't have a lot to actually replace. Some intangibles that are on paper that aren't actual stats, how they plug holes, how they're holding up against the run, and those kinds of things, maybe something that's going to be a job for PFF to actually tally, might be a different story. But when it comes to raw numbers like tackles for loss, solo tackles, sacks, or anything like that, there's just not a lot to replace. The production is just not there. So they don't actually have to do that much. So will they be able to fill those holes? Not to mention we do have one D line, or excuse me, D end to replace. I have to pull up the depth chart. It came out today and find out who that is. I want to say it's Evans, Dalen Evans. So I have to check myself on that to make sure. But that's a big question mark. So whoever that fourth piece is going to play a big role in pulling um, some of the offensive line their way, shoring up that other side so that we can get pass rush even pressure from both sides. So just getting even like a hurry is going to be a big deal for this secondary in my mind. Um, let's see. So if the pass rush is able to get home, um, like I said, it will tell us two different things. It'll tell us whether or not that pass rush is what it used to be, and it'll tell us whether or not the secondary is where it needs to be. So those are two really, really big questions. Again, I can't wait to see Tyreek Chappelle play the nickel. Looks like he's starting. Looks like it's probably going to be Des Ricks on one side, Will Lee on the other side, Bryce and Radcliffe on the deep. Okay? So sounds like a pretty good group to me. Will they be able to live up to it? I got some questions, but I think we'll know what they can do based off of what kind of pressure we're able to get on a pretty regular basis. If they're doing their job, then our guys will be getting home. So Marcel's accuracy as a passer has been under the microscope, like I said. Probably the most scrutinized offseason um, situation I've seen in quite some time, to be quite honest. So this game will go a long, long way to squash that criticism. More than that, we've started to hear about the undertones that are motivating this team, like being off of awards list. They're sick and tired of the 8-4 talk. How serious was this team about that? Well, if it means anything to anyone, it ought to matter to the QB. And with him being under the most fire, improvement from him in this area will go a long way to convince me, and I assume everyone else, that the speculative motivation this team has was, or rather is, true. So he needs to squash that. If this motivation is what we think it is with this team, showing that he's grown in this area will probably catapult my maroon Kool-Aid level to catastrophic levels. I mean, because of the way I see this. Not because I'm going to be so excited that he's completing passes, but it's going to be that qualitative piece underlying this that is going to tell me he has been taking the off season seriously, and they really do think that this 8-4 talk, not being on awards list like Will Lee and some of the rest, how that's playing out in the locker room. You've got York telling Will Lee, "Hey, you got left off this." You got Zune who's ticked off about the 8-4 talk. Is this, or has this really motivated them? Motivation is probably the second biggest thing to identity. So, second biggest thing, if they've got motivation here and they are able to fend off the rat poison, and that motivation has willed them to have an entire spring, summer, and fall camp to be done at the highest level, good things are going to happen. They are. Fourth, will Mike Elko call plays? I don't have a lot to say here, in my opinion. At the end of last year, Elko was disgusted at the way our D was playing. It was clear he would have a much more heavy-handed and involved role. We knew this. The big question was going to be, would he actually call plays? I do not think that's going to be the case. I think we will see the growth from the D and from Bateman, and he'll get the credit he's been desperately wanting. Elko doesn't call plays, but the result is still what we hope it will be. That's my prediction on this. That's a question I think everybody wants to get answered. I don't think it's actually a hugely meaningful question, but I understand the question wanting to be answered, right? So um, I just don't think that will be the case. I think we'll see um, Bateman calling the plays, Elko managing the game. Okay? Lastly, and to foreshadow the rest of the season, I want to say I think this is a trap game, but not the kind that usually implies. This game is about finding our identity. I'm not saying it's a trap game because I think we're going to get beat because we just played some sort of huge quality opponent last week, and now this week we're going to have some sort of letdown. That's not what I mean by trap game. Here's what I mean. I think that when finding our identity in this game, the single most important task that we have, if we want to be bound for greatness, is going to be what this is actually going to be. So in just 2 weeks from this game, we're going to play the national champion runner-up, a team picked to contend for that top spot, or better. Once again, Notre Dame, right? So, what will be our identity? Well, what will our identity be? Is it going to be all it's such an all-encompassing question. It just strikes me really, really profoundly because it hits on, will we be a running team? Will we be a passing team? What's our physicality level going to be? What's our, can we dominate the other team in these areas? So will we play with that type of physicality? And has this team taken the necessary steps? I just can't emphasize it enough on what this team's identity is going to be. And it might just be UTSA. I get that. I think we can take a lot more away from these types of games than we can, or that we think we actually can. It's not that we have to have a Notre Dame to actually say, this is what we're going to do. I think that will solidify it. Absolutely, yes. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to score early and often if the weather holds off. I think we're probably going to put up, well, I'll hold that part for the end. I, I think we're going to score quick. I think we're going to score often. I think it's going to be some shorter drives than we're normally accustomed to. And I think it's going to be through the air. Certainly going to be a possibility that it's going to be on the ground as well. But here's the deal on this. The deal is that this can be very provocative. It can be something that we ooh and we ah about and say, oh man, our passing game is dynamic. And I think it will be. I get that. I think it's going to leave us thinking our identity is in the passing game. I think it's going to overshadow the run plays, and I think it's going to overshadow how the offensive line is playing up front in the trenches. So watch the trenches and see how they're actually dominating, how physical they are. They just, I mean, are they blowing their guys off? Are they manhandling them? Who's getting beat? Who's on top of their business? Who's in the right spot at the right time? All these questions will tell us what this identity is, because this is an opponent that we should not be having those kinds of issues with. And if we are, it's going to give me pause. If we're not, I'm not sold, but I'm moving in the right direction because they're telling me that they took the off season the way it needed to be. So, to be sure, we better have this solidified by Notre Dame week. But I think we will go into that game known for our passing and come out respected for our running game. So final pick in this one, and I'm probably going to go ahead and pick against the spread. I've got, if the weather holds off, I think I'm going to have the Roadrunners 20 and A&M in the 45 range. It could go a little bit less, a little bit more, I think, depending on the weather. And I think the upper limit here, y'all, is quite a big deal depending on what we're going to see from the backups. Miles O'Neill has looked really good. I expect a lot from this guy. The second team is really going to flash it from what I'm hearing. Just trying to pick up the pieces. Not that I've got some sort of insider info. I'm not that person. It just feels that way from the confidence level throughout all the team. So that's my pick. I've got A&M covering. I've got A&M covering and more. And that's it, y'all. This is the first preview of the year. I can't. So, what? You got 3 more days to figure out how to get to Kyle Field, and I will see you there. I will see you there. So check back for the reaction show. I'll be back with a reaction show. And like I said, I don't want your subs, but if that helps your algorithm, by all means do that. You'll probably do better by liking, sharing with a friend, or turning on the bell, or whatever you got to do. Don't care for the subs. I like that you're here. Happy to have you. So we'll see you on the reaction.